So I'm going to show you guys how to turn your hand drawing that you've done, where you've traced the actual drawing. I'm going to show you guys how to turn that into a compound path. Now, compound vectors can be very useful. Now, as of right now, all your different parts are single lines and objects. So when I use my selection tool, which is the shortcut is V, and I select these things, they're all separate. None of them are connected. So what this means is if I want to make changes, I have to make changes to every single line. And that can be very tedious. So what I need you guys to do is you're going to open up number 15, the activity where you had to hand trace. Now you'll notice your drawing is in the background. So the first thing you're going to want to do is to come over here to your layers panel. This is what your layers panel looks like here on the right. It's the looks like two little stacks of paper on top of each other. If your layers window isn't open, go up to window, go down to layers and click on that and it will open up. What you need to do is on the layer right here, these are your layers, the layer that says drawing, it's probably locked. I want you to click on this eye. And what that does is it turns off that layer to where we no longer see it. So since we're done tracing it, we don't need to see it anymore and it's just going to get in our way. So I turned it off so I don't see it anymore. Then what you're going to want to do, since you have this document with 2 blank pages, this is going to be your actual hand traced drawing. Now, when I work with things and I do my drawings, I never destroy my work. And what I mean by destroy means if I'm going to make any major changes, I don't do it to my original. So I'm going to click and drag and select this entire work of art here that I drew. And then you are going to right click and drag it over. So you're going to drag your drawing. So this is the sample that I'm using, and then you guys are going to do the same thing to your drawing. So now you have 2 identical copies. That way we're not going to touch this one at all. And the reason why is if we mess up really dramatically with this one on the right and we can't undo or fix what we messed up, then we can always go back to the one that we originally had. So you never want to change your original work and then save it because you can't undo it. So I simply just make a copy of it, and then that way you can make your changes to this one, and if you mess it all up, oh well, you can just copy again and start over. Sometimes what I do when I'm working on certain drawings or logos or artwork is I will select my original, hold down Alt, and I'll make a copy and just throw it off onto my artboard over here, and then I'll work on my artboards here. But by throwing it over into my workspace out here, it's not an actual part of my drawing. If I was to go and print this file, then this over here, everything on the outside is not going to print, but I can store it here just so I never lose it and I always have a backup. So I'm going to come over to the one I'm working on, not my original. I'm going to select the entire thing. I'm going to go up to Object and I'm going to go down to Expand Appearance right here and click that. And that's going to kind of expand some of the brush strokes and things that we did in here. So you may see some slight differences or you may not see too many differences at all, and that's fine. So now that we did the expand appearance, it turned some of these brush strokes actually into vectors. So that's going to be really helpful. So we're going to continue to have our image selected. We're going to go back up to Object. We're going to go down to Expand. And this brings up a little window asking what we want to expand. So we have the option Fill and Stroke, and we want both of those selected, and then you're going to select OK. And what this just did is it actually turned all of your lines and everything into vector shapes. So you can see here, a lot of them are overlapped, which is perfectly fine. So we have these individual shapes now. So it took all those paths and all those lines that you created with the different tools, and it now has them expanded into shapes. So now that these are all vector shapes, what we're going to do is we're actually going to unite or compound them. So I'm going to zoom out. you need to open up your Pathfinder Tools, which if you do not have it opened here on the side or somewhere, go up to Window and go down to Pathfinder. It looks just like this, so you're going to open this guy up. You're going to click and select all of your shapes, and you're going to click this first one, which is Unite, and it's going to actually, if we zoom in, you'll notice all of the areas that were overlapping are now connected. So they're all united shapes. So if we look before, this was before, and then we click Unite, and now they're all solid. So all those overlaps are gone, and it's really cleaned everything up, and it's made everything one shape. Then what you're going to do is on your Pathfinder, you're going to click on this little menu, and you're going to click on Make Compound Shape. Now it's going to turn this into a compound shape, which doesn't look like it's done much, but if you click on this button, once you've clicked Make Compound Shape, this little expand button will come up. So you're going to click Expand. And now you have individual compounded shapes. So everything's nice and clean. It's really organized. You don't have any of those funny little lines, no overlap. So you have created a very united, clean compound shape. So there's a few things that's really helpful with it all being connected like this. If we wanted to change it to an outline, we can switch our color fill over here, and now we have this cool little outline. We can switch it back to a fill. If we want it to come to our strokes, we can make it a dash line. We can change 12 dash. So you can start adding dashes to it. You can change if you want certain strokes. There's different things you can play around here. Turn off the dash. You can also go to your brush panel and you can select, well, you have to have it selected. You can select different brush strokes. Oh, there we go. And okay, so just as an example, you can kind of see that it has put this crazy brush stroke on, so it's applying it. Because it's such a complicated thing, the program itself may have some weird issues with it, but you see that it's kind of done this crazy brush stroke. So I'm actually going to undo. If it'll let me undo. Okay, there we go. Whew. I was worried for a second. I thought I was going to have to take my original over and redo everything. Let me just make sure that this is still a compound shape and that it's expanded. Which it should be. It's still got some weirdness to it. So apparently some of the things I was doing to show you messed it up. So I'm going to pause this and quickly. So that was a perfect example as to why you always keep your original, just in case something goes wrong, or I was trying to show you guys something and it decided not to work right, and sometimes that happens. So it's always best to have your original so you can just recreate it. So all I did was copy this back over and make it a compound again. So now we are going to open up our Artboards panel, which should be, nope. Go to Window, go down to Artboards, because we are going to add a new artboard. So it says New Artboard, and then rearrange. I want 2 columns. So now it's going to put this one down here. So all I did was go to Window, go down to Artboards, which brought up this panel. Clicking this little button added a new one, and then this rearrange icon here, and said that I wanted just 2 columns. So that way it moved this artboard down. Okay, so your next step is you're going to take your rectangle tool. Make sure it's a regular rectangle and not a rounded rectangle. And something that's roughly about the same size as your artboard. You're going to create a rectangle and you're just going to fill it with kind of a bright color. So I really like some of the blues. Make sure when you fill it with the color that you're not filling just the stroke, that you're actually filling the fill. So I'm going to switch my fill to the color and then I'm going to actually make sure the stroke is turned off. Then you're going to select your vector, hold down Alt and make a copy of it. If your skull is behind your color, go ahead and right click, go down to Arrange and click Send to Back, so that way your skull is on there. If you have any little extra text, make sure you get rid of that little box. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to actually click your skull again, hold down Alt, make a copy, throw that over here. We're going to use that later. Then you're going to click and drag so you select both the skull and your colored background. We're going to come up to the top because once you've selected multiple objects, your align panel shows up. And we're going to horizontal align. And so that made sure it was centered. And then we're going to vertically align. And that's going to make sure it's centered that way as well. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, make sure you have your skull selected and the background. And you're going to come over here and you're going to click on the fourth one on your Pathfinder tool. Remember, if you don't have that open, go to Windows and go down to Pathfinder and open that up. And you're going to click on Exclude. Now you'll notice it changed it to black and white, so we almost have a reversed copy of this. So our skull is in white and our background is in black. Now what it did is it actually took the graphics, the vector graphic that you made of the skull, and it cut it out of the background. So now I'm going to go back, I'm going to select this, and I'm going to add my color back to it. Make sure it's selected. Once again, make sure it's your fill color, not your stroke color. So turn your stroke off by clicking the box with the red line and make sure it's your fill color. So what we actually did was this object is no longer here anymore. These vectors are gone. We literally just cut them out of the colored block. So we have this color tile with the white is actually missing. So if you kind of drag it over, see how it's actually missing, which is what we want. So then what you're going to do is you're going to grab the copy here and you're going to hold down Shift and grab your color block here. So you want both of these selected. You're going to go up here to your Align tool and you're going to click Align Horizontal, and then you're going to align vertical. Now, if you aligned your previous shape in your blocks before you actually used the Pathfinder tool, then this should line up perfectly. If not, then it's going to be a little off. So you need to make sure you followed that step. So I'm just going to put this back over here. So now we have our skull perfectly on top of our cutout. Now we still can't select on the individual parts to color it because when we select, it selects everything. So I want to be able to select these individual parts that we cut out to color them. So what happens when you put the skull image onto the colored background and you did the Exclude tool, it did cut out the skull and it did create these shapes, but it grouped them all together. So you simply have to click on the object, right click and go down to Ungroup. Now if you click off, now when I click, each part is individual. So that means I can go through and color every single part on its own because they are all different. Now if you click on the actual outline, that's the black outline. So you can keep the black outline black or you can change it to a specific color. Usually works best if you keep it black, so there's a lot of nice contrast. But all of these individual shapes we can actually color. So we're going to want to get rid of this outside color because we're going to want to do something different in the background. So I'm going to select the outside area and I'm just going to click the backspace to delete it. Now this makes it to where I can literally go in here, go to my color swatches, and I can start changing colors. Okay, I highly recommend when you guys are changing your colors, if you want to, let's say, do this part on the left side and you want to do the same part on the right side, hold down Shift and it'll select both, and then you can go and change your color on both of them. That way you don't have to select one, change your color, select the next one. If you just click it, hold down Shift, click the next one, you can go ahead and start changing the colors. So you're going to need to set up your document like this for the next part, because we are going to create some invitations with this image. So what I want you to turn in is I actually wanted you to take a screenshot of all three. You're not going to color your skull in yet. I just want a solid color. So basically I want you to have it look like this. You can have green in the background or whatever color you want, yellow, blue, it doesn't matter. Just make sure it's not white and it's not black. So you should have black outline with some color in the background. So you should have your individual drawing like this turned in with your compound vector here and your colored image. So how I actually want you to turn this file in is going to be a little bit different. I want you to save it as, you're going to go up to File and you're going to actually save it as a Illustrator file. So, oops, I have to go to Save As for mine. So you open up the Save menu. You can save it in your folder, so I'm just going to click Desktop on mine. Make sure you save it with your name and then put it as compounding. And then you're going to make sure you save it as Adobe Illustrator. So it's going to be an AI file. So you're going to click Save, and then you're actually going to turn that AI file into me on Google Classroom. So I want the entire AI file for this one because I want to be able to check and see that you did draw these out, you did do the compound, and you do have your original shapes. So for number 16, I want you to turn in the Illustrator file on Google Classroom.